Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Dave Savage with Mortgage Coach. Welcome to another Mortgage Coach coaching call. We're here to connect as a community of like-minded mortgage professionals. We're here to learn the ideas that are working best and to get focused on the week ahead. Every week when I do these calls, my goal is to put on the mortgage industry's best sales meeting. So think of this as your sales meeting as a Mortgage Coach member. We're here to connect and learn. Again, my name is Dave Savage. I'm the CEO of Mortgage Coach. Everybody on this call, you are a part of our family, a part of our team. I urge you to connect with me at LinkedIn, at Facebook, and absolutely make sure that you are liking the Mortgage Coach Facebook page. Not only do we announce a couple days before the call who the speaker of every coaching call is in Facebook, but we have interaction and conversations around that. And really, every time we're doing a call and we're doing something new, we're posting that in Facebook, so make sure you connect with us there. There will be a few opportunities throughout the call to ask questions or make comments. The number one there, if there is anybody who's new to a call, this is the very first Mortgage Coach coaching call, this would be a time to raise your hand just so I can do a shout out for you and make sure you know how to do it. Once you do that, I can unmute you and bring you into the conversation. Also, where the number two is, you can just provide commentary and comments, and when I'm not talking, and Scott's talking or someone else is, I'm paying attention to what's going on there. So let's get with it. I'm not going to start interviewing Scott yet. Scott, I want to kind of bring you in right now. Thank you for taking the time to prepare for this call. I would say of all the people that I interview and speak, no one is more prepared. No one invests more to deliver value. So I just want you to know I'm grateful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Look forward to our call later.
Good. Well, in about 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to start the interview and really drill down on how Scott is building relationships and going deeper with relationships with realtors through having monthly breakfast meetings. So we'll get to that in just a second. I want to continue as a Mortgage Coach community reminding you about the iPhone app and the iPad app. I want to make sure everybody has downloaded it. If you're part of the Mortgage Coach team, you should have it on your iPhone, you should have it on your iPad, and you should make sure that you're able to connect with your customers and your referral partners wherever they're at. A couple of the two most common use cases that we're hearing, I think the most obvious one is that you want your borrowers to be able to view your advice on their iPhone or iPad. So when they click on a link from an iPhone or iPad, if the app is installed, it'll go right to viewing that Mortgage Coach report. If the app isn't installed, it will prod them to install. It will take them to the installation page, and then they click on the link, and it opens. So make sure that you're going through that experience so that you know what it's like for your clients to go through it, and that you can guide them through it. The second most common use case is we're hearing where loan officers are loading up some reports before meetings with realtors or partners, and they're making sure they have some success stories so that when they're meeting with someone, they just pull out their iPhone or their iPad and tell a story. One of the ideas that Scott and I talked about was while he's doing this breakfast meeting, pull up a few rent versus own analysis, FHA versus conventional analysis, and pass it around to all the realtors to really create that wow in terms of the way you're delivering advice and value in the market is different than other loan officers. So I want to urge you, I want to make sure everybody has done that. I want to do a quick poll. Have you installed the iPhone app? So guys and gals, the quicker you answer this question, the faster we can go on. I need to get 70% of you to vote. So please vote quickly so I can get a feedback of what percent has downloaded this app. Scott, any questions or comments on your end before we move on with the call as it relates to the app?
No, I have downloaded it onto my iPhone and my iPad. And one of the coolest things that you taught me was being able to use the history tab. I've got a couple meetings with realtors after this call and after a luncheon today, and I always have my iPad there to take notes with them in the high trust interview. And I'm going to use this iPad app to click on this example that I already have downloaded into history and to show them right there in front of them in my high trust interview. So I think it's awesome.
Love it. Love it. And please let me know how that goes if you don't mind, Scott. All right, I'm going to close the survey. So 35% of you said yes. 65% said no. Now, I know there's a great deal of that 65% that are waiting for the Android app, and it is a work in progress, and we are bringing it to market. If you do have an iPhone or an iPad and you have not downloaded it, I mean, do it right now. Do it while we're on the call. Start downloading that. Start playing with that. That is a key component of the overall Mortgage Coach experience. So let's get rolling on that, all right? Real quick, if anybody wants to raise their hand, I want to do a little shout out. If you have a success story, a comment, a question, something about how you're using the app that you'd like to share with other members, again, I'll give you an opportunity now to raise your hand. Also, if you later in the call, you can't talk now, but you want to raise your hand later, I'd really like to get some conversation going around that. If not this week, next week. So again, I'll keep an eye out for anybody that does raise their hand. I also want to remind people, if you have some good thoughts to share, if it has delivered value, we really appreciate any of those testimonials in the Apple Store. It really helps us elevate our reputation within that Apple Store. So with that said, it's time to move into the big interview. We've got Scott Cummings. You know, not only have I had Scott as a guest on a number of these coaching calls, heck, we had you a couple weeks ago, and that's what really inspired today's conversation. I did really just an open, free-flow interview with Scott, and we identified a really key strategy that he's doing. So today we're going to drill down on that strategy. Before we do that, before we do that, though, Scott, I do want to ask you what I consider wow selling questions. Last week I introduced the concept that I'm going to start doing these wow selling interviews, and that will be a different conversation that you and I have, Scott.
Sure.
But I really want to understand a few key principles around how you sell. So one concept I brought up last week, Scott, is I brought up that different people, some people are more artists than scientists. And what I mean by that is the artist is the person that really kind of just relies on their X factor, their personality, who they are relationshiply. The scientist is really someone who relies on technology, process. So again, I think most of the time when I interview really super elite successful people, they've got a good balance of both art and science. Scott, how would you portray yourself? More artist or more scientist?
You know, I say I'm very strong in both. And maybe that's what you were alluding to earlier. You know, I do a great job on the rapport side. We have a different conversation with people. But also, more importantly, I am very analytical. And so the Mortgage Coach tool is the perfect outlet or the way for me to visualize, let's take and educate and empower the consumer. And how do we do that? We're going to use Mortgage Coach to create detailed analysis based on their specific goals and objectives, estimated length of home ownership. We're going to quantify that down to the dollar for them. And so we do both very well.
You know, this is the second time I've asked this question of an elite salesperson, and this time and last time, the person said I'm very well balanced. I've got a nice complement of both. So my takeaway to that is, if you are not closing more than 8 loans a month, and you're not where you want to be from a success level, ask yourself, where are you? And again, I haven't asked enough people to come to this conclusion, but my gut is, you're going to find that the artist needs to add more science, and the scientist needs to add more art. So again, if you're thriving and striving and you are at that elite level where you want to be, hey, you're probably well balanced. If you're not, the fastest path is to be more balanced in this area. I think, as I continue to ask more and more great salespeople and people who are struggling, more stay tuned on that. Another quick question is, how important is it to wow to your success? When you think of why are you successful, the whole wow component, the fact that you are surpassing expectations when you meet and when you deliver service for clients, how important is the wow piece?
Everything we do is based on the wow. Our entire business model, whether it's a team member, us, our marketing, our brand, everything we do, we want to operate kind of around that raving fan model. I heard a great term. I was coming back from an out-of-town trip this week, and I was reading the latest Entrepreneur magazine on the plane. There was a great title in there, and on one of the articles, and it said, creating brand ambassadors. And I think the wow factor is key and pivotal to creating these brand ambassadors. And what I would say, and I can't give the guy credit, I don't remember who it was, a speech I heard, and it stuck with me for many, many years. And the guy said, I want a presence that's present even when I'm not present. And it sounds like a play on words, but that's all about the wow experience. The client remembers the experience far longer than they remember the process.
Love that. So it's all about being memorable, and the way that you become memorable is by wowing, by surpassing expectations.
That's got to be the foundation of your business.
Absolutely. And give a couple examples of how you wow. So just real quick, what are some of the cornerstones to how you wow?
We're going to wow up front from the initial phone call. We're going to have a different conversation. Our conversation with the client is, we don't sell anything. We're all about educating and empowering them to make an informed decision. So the wow begins initially. We're not the loan officer with a rate sheet and a calculator selling anything. That distinction is created immediately. The mortgage coach allows us to create a huge distinction that we're providing them detailed analytical financial information to make the informed decision. And then with us and our clients, we have a whole raving fan system I built in the 90s that's cards and letters and emails and communication that goes out to just blow them away with the level of service that we provide them.
So I heard a couple things. I heard communication, the amount of communication, the consistency of the communication, the fact that it's before the transaction, after the transaction. You know, there's communication, and the rhythm of it is a key to your wow. And I heard that in the unique interview that you have, when you're winning the loan, when you're quoting the rate, and you're building that trust and rapport, you're creating wow. So good. All right. Well, let's roll into the prepared presentation. The way I would articulate it, Scott, is that again, one of your success habits is having these breakfast meetings with key realtors in your marketplace so that you can educate them and you can build relationship and value for them. I'm going to go ahead and pass you the screen. Why don't you walk us through your presentation and your thoughts?
Okay. My thought is this. When we think of our business, and let's kind of start with the market, and we probably all get this, but I think it creates the foundation for this call. And the idea is this. We've had a lot of refinances for a very extended period of time. There is a market correction coming. We all get that. But what I would challenge you to look at each of your businesses is market corrections expose weaknesses. And so if you've been really heavy in refinances and haven't been doing a job building relationships or working on other business pillars within your business, you may be in for a big shock. The other thing that challenges me in my business is refinances are declining. The latest MBA reports, everything shows they're going down every month. What the other thing, I've done this 30 years, helped thousands and thousands of families. One of the things that always sticks in my mind is, will there be these big refinance bubbles or opportunities going forward when everyone has a 2.8 to 3.6 rate? Probably not. So we as business people, we have to run our business as truly the CEO of our company. Even if you're a single originator and you work for a mortgage banking company, you've got to have that business mindset. And if we're going to have a business mindset, we've got to start thinking business pillars. Well, obviously, the number one business pillar for us as originators should be real estate professionals. My experience doing this for 30 years is back in the day, I hate to say that, it makes me sound old, but when I started as a young kid doing this, I had kind of carte blanche access to all the real estate companies in town. I had a phenomenal reputation. I could go in and speak at all the sales meetings. Well, the world has changed since then. Everyone has gone to in-house lenders, so I've lost that ability to go in and speak to people. The advent of ABAs with the online lending, you can go to any big box retailer and find a lending brochure. Your insurance company's now doing loans. There is a lot of people competing for our business. And so it's become harder for me to get out and see realtors. And so what I've done, and I've done this for many years, I've had these meetings for forever. What we do is we just went out, and I thought, if I can't go get into an office to provide a presentation. I'm going to create my own presentation. And that's really what our conversation today is going to be about, is how can each of you go out, intentionally create this type of event. I'm going to walk you through how to structure it, how to set it up, content, agendas, strategies, everything we do to create your own successful real estate seminar. I guarantee you it'll change the way your business works. It'll explode your results if you'll follow the steps. So some of the key points on this first slide, we just talked about it a little bit, but you can get access to any agent that's in any office if you're creating the proper wow and a presentation that's drawing people to come to it. One of the things I like, the second point, is have a one-to-many conversation. And what I mean by that is if I'm out as an originator meeting with one realtor at a time, one realtor at a time, one realtor at a time, that takes a lot of time. My current goal is I try and meet with 3 to 5 referral partners a day. And so I'm spending a lot of time doing that. But if I can sit down and have an event where we have 20, 30, 40 real estate agents there at one time, and I can speak to all of them, that is a one-to-many conversation. And so I've just exploded my results over the course of an hour and a half or 2 hours speaking to that many people. It sets up the third bullet point, and the third bullet point is if I have this conversation or seminar or event that I put on, and I do a great job, provide huge value, really impact them, I believe I've earned the right to call them and set up face-to-face appointments. And so each seminar should be setting up, 20 to 30 or 40 face-to-face appointments every time I hold an event. And so it also creates a huge distinction between me and the competition, because I'm out there, I'm seen as a professional, the expert, I'm bringing value-added content, I'm helping them with their business, I'm sharing how we're helping others. We're bringing a lot of content to these people to dramatically impact their business. And it also allows me to showcase my expertise. And it's a great format for me to show how I'm helping, not sit there and sell someone. That is a huge distinction we're going to talk about in just a minute. Let's go on to the next slide. I do a fair amount in social media. I have a very successful blog in the personal finance sector, and we've heard this countless times, but content is king. And so one of the things we have to think about, if we're going to create an event, if we're going to invite people, all of us have to think one thing. It's just like you being on this call today. The biggest distinction for you being on the call today, you got an email announcement, maybe you saw a Facebook post or on the Mortgage Coach site, and you saw something about the event, and you had to decide right then and there, what's in it for me? Do I need to be focused on loans or calls, or should I jump on this call and learn about impacting my business? Well, when we are putting together an event for real estate professionals, they're getting your emails, they're getting a marketing announcements, they're getting a phone call, whatever it may be. In their mind, they're silently asking themselves, what's in it for me? Is there any value in it? So it gets back to this point. Great content has got to be paramount. You've got to have that dialed in. You've got to be succinct. You've got to be a good presenter. But content has got to be where all of your focus is. And when I think about content and I think about our events, we've done our events for a lot of years. I've trained thousands and thousands of real estate professionals in addition to thousands of mortgage professionals. When I think about the thousands of realtors that I've trained, my content is all focused on helping them. It's not about selling Scott. It's about helping them in their business. That is a huge distinction. I hope you take a moment to write it down. One of the things that we do is we put together seminar series. And so, for example, in October, we started our latest series. And in October, the first one that I did was how to create a compelling vision and goals for your business and life. November, we went to business planning, a unique way to look at it from a business pillars perspective. December, we did the how-to, the implementation. January, we did prospecting, how to explode your results. February, we did mastering the art of referrals. March, we did CRM systems. And so we have a series that people plug into. So there's some continuity that is set up that gets them and engages them to keep coming back. This next point is huge. Super servant, not superstar. I may have heard that back in the day. Could have been from Stump or Buffini or who knows. One of the people I've been to, I don't know where I heard that, but it's always stuck with me. And the thought there is, if we put on the event, we don't want to put on the event and stand up there with the ego and the attitude that we're the best, we're the greatest, and you ought to be working with me or else. that's a no-win situation. What I want to do is I want to stand up and I want to be the super servant. I want to be the person who shares, here's how we're helping. This is the difference we're making in people's lives. Whether that's a real estate professional or a borrower or whoever it may be, I want to focus on how we're helping. When I started in business, I've got it right here in my desk drawer. That kind of cracks me up. I have a 3x5 card I just pulled out of my desk. So in 1983, I wrote these simple quote. Am I more concerned with trying to get what I want? And I put a big or, am I really helping other people get what they want? So the foundation for 30 years, thousands upon thousands of transactions, has been based on this 3x5 card. And it's really around this super servant. I want to be here to help, touch, and impact people's lives. And if you'll come at it with that attitude when you think about putting these events together, that will create a huge success for you right there. When I think about our event and I think about content, I think it needs to be full-on, full-color handouts, professional graphics, totally dialed in, laid out, not some black and white, at an angle copier thing that you put together. And so you need to spend some time. There's so much technology today to put together really nice graphics and full color stuff is a pretty easy thing to do, but I would challenge you to bring it at the most professional level you can bring it. Another key point when I think about doing these events is don't give away all the information. I've done this long enough. I have people who come every month, and they may never send me a transaction. They may just come and take the information. And so what we try and do is hold back some information because, as I said earlier on the prior slide, I want my event to create the basis for me to call them and set up that one-to-one meeting to get together them and go deeper on their business and learn about how we can work together, how I can help them, how we've helped others. And so think about that when you're doing the event and you're structuring your handouts and that we even provide our realtors who come to these events, we limit the information that goes on there so that it creates the impetus for a follow-up meeting. Let's go on to the next slide here, filling your seminar. One of the big things is everyone can say, hey, Scott, it's a great idea, but how do I get people there? Or maybe you've tried it in the past. And if we think about it, the easy answer for so many things in business is going to be email. And so email is cheap, it's free, and it's fast. It may not generate the biggest result. Well, what do we do with our email to generate a result? We want to have a compelling subject line. Many times I'll insert their first name, comma, and then the compelling comment about whatever the content may be. I want to create excitement and interest. I do that it's limited attendance. I limit my events to 30 realtors. We may say that by the time I send an email out, typically I already have numerous RSVPs. So we're showing that, gee, maybe we only have 8 or 9 or 11 spots remaining. You want to get on this and not miss out. I want some key seminar highlights. And when I think of creating excitement and interest and seminar highlights, I want to think what is in it for them. Not that I'm writing some great email that makes me look good. I want to write an email focused on them, how we can help, how we can impact, how we can touch and make their lives better and more productive. I want to have an agenda overview in there, so if someone says, well, what's going on, I want them to be able to scan through and have a clear idea of what the event looks like. I want to be sure I've got a date, a location, time, and details. That seems simple, but many times people may forget to leave that out. And then we should all know this from the marketing messages we see. There's got to be a definitive call to action that creates a sense of urgency to get them to act immediately. Let's go on to the next slide here about filling your seminar. I believe personal, hands-on will generate a far greater result than email, and probably stronger than believe, I know, because we live this way. And so if we think about it, what I want to do is I want to get on the phone. I want my team to get on the phone. I'm going to get onto the phone, and I'm going to call these people, and I'm going to create and share excitement about our event and the content that's going to be far stronger in a conversational manner than what they're going to read in the text of the body of an email. And so getting them on the phone, just the intonation in my voice, how excited I am, oh my gosh, let me tell you we're helping others, here's what I'm doing, you're going to love this, here's how it's going to impact your business, that's going to be far stronger right there to create a call to action. The other thing that I want to do when I think about making these calls, I want my call to be realtor focused. Again, it seems like a simple distinction, but it is so critical for you and your success of the event. When I think about doing this, I want to be focused on the realtor. I'm going to pull out a piece of paper. I'm going to write the 2 or 3 or 4 bullet points. What is my goal? How have I helped others? How will this help them? remind them about the time and location, that we're limited on the remaining spots we have available for the event. And I put my 4 or 5 key bullet points. I give those to my team or myself, and we're going to call through that, staying totally focused on those events to get these to happen. Another thing, when we call, I just think each of us, on my team and myself, I want to know I have one goal. That one goal is to get an RSVP. And I don't want, the one goal is not to sell them on Scott or my company. My one goal is to get an RSVP. And so if we start to think like that, when we get them on the phone, as salespeople, we may start to sell. And when we start to sell, no one wants to be sold anything, and that's going to be a turn off and push people away. So when I start dialing and we're filling the event, I've got an event next week that we're doing our own event. I'm speaking at a title company event tomorrow. But when I think about filling my own event, I'm going to have me and my team one goal: get the RSVP, get the RSVP. How do I get the RSVP? It's what I said earlier, up a couple points on this slide. I'm going to create excitement. I'm going to create value. I'm going to tell how we're helping others, how this will impact their business, and that this is going to be a great use of their time. That is just so important that they understand that there's a lot of things competing for their time. In our market, probably like many of the markets across America, we're seeing real estate sales heat up. We're seeing limited inventory, more buyers, multiple buyers on property. So the realtor has got a lot going on in their life today. There's a lot of things competing for their time and their attention. And as we move into these busy summer months, we're going to have realtors that are going to be less inclined to come to the event. And so if that's the case, I've got to think when I'm on these calls, how am I spending my time in a way and selling this on the event for one goal: get the RSVP. The other thing is it creates a great opportunity to call and connect. I mean, think about it. It's an item of value. Again, you're not calling to sell them anything. You're calling Mr. or Mrs. Realtor and saying, hey, Bob or Susie, I've got this incredible event. Here's whatever it may be, the 2 or 3 key bullet points. Here's how it's going to dramatically impact your business. Maybe you quantify that. Maybe it's increased sales. Maybe it's more efficiency. Maybe it's stop losing leads. Whatever you want to focus on, let's be sure we're doing that. And so that opportunity to call and connect, show them how you're adding value. Even if they said no to your event, you're putting something out there that's different than other originators. You're here to help build their business. Let's talk a little bit about event location and details. I've done a lot of these events, and let me tell you what I've learned. Some of the things that I've learned is I want it to be a convenient location. And when I think convenient in my marketplace, I want it to be relatively centrally located so that it's convenient for people to come from different areas of town that they're going to come there. The other thing is I want it to be a well-known brand or location. And the reason I want it to be a well-known brand or location is I don't want to pick some out-of-the-way place. It gives me a great deal on the room, but what I find is no one knows where it is. I want it to be a brand that everyone knows in my community. And when I mention the restaurant, they're like, oh my gosh, been there many times, great place, love it, can't wait to get there. So that eliminates people getting lost. I think it also helps with the attendance if it's something that they're familiar with. The other thing that we want, I've done both lunches and breakfast. I have gravitated to breakfast because there's less going on in the morning than at lunchtime for them to get distracted or cancel. And so when I think about even a breakfast selection, I want to be sure there's a wide variety of food choices. And there again, we're accommodating a lot of different people with a lot of different, menu, health, vegan, meat eater, meat lover, you got it, gluten-free. And so I want to go a place that has a very, very broad selection of menu items. The other reason I want to go a place where there's a very broad selection of menu items is we're going to keep our event here all year. And so I don't want someone to get burnt out that there's only one type of food or cuisine for them to choose from. This way they can mix it up each time they're there. One of the things I'm very picky on is it has to be a private room. I've spoken at events where it hasn't been a private room as a guest. Huge distraction, would never recommend that. So I want a private room. I want to be very specific on the room layout. We limit ours to 30, and so I want it to accommodate 30 people comfortably, not crowded. I want to be sure when I think of accommodate the room and the layout, I want to be sure that the audience can see me, that their backs aren't to me. So I want to think, how can the tables be laid out? I want to be thinking, for me as the speaker, do I need a table to hold my presentation material, my iPad or my computer? Is it a door prize item? Well, will I have water? How will the chairs be set up? You want to think through, go to the room, meet with the manager, and walk them through, this is specifically how I want the room laid out. And if you've got to draw it out and tell them, I want this done each and every time. We talked a little bit about this, but we want to reserve dates for the entire year because we want to give that schedule. We want our event to be so compelling that people just, boom, they just pre-book it and they pre-sign up for the event. Let's talk a little bit about setting up the event. What have I learned that may help you? One of the things that we do is we're going to call the restaurant in advance. My assistant does this. She's going to call and she's going to confirm the room and she's going to confirm the room layout because, restaurants have many shift people. They come, they go, and I don't want to show up and it's not set out correctly. The other thing, this is a thing, again, where I'm a little picky, but it makes a huge difference. I want to confirm the wait staff. So at the restaurant that we're currently using, I have some very favorite people in there that do a phenomenal job. And as Dave said earlier, how do you deliver the wow experience? Well, they're part of us delivering the wow experience. So I have the same wait staff every one of my events. What do? We want to arrive early. So my team gets there early. They're going to check the layout, the setup. They're going to pass out all of our handouts. They're going to make sure my spot is set up and everything is there so I can just kind of come in and relax and not get stressed out that we show up right before the event starts and it's not the way we want it. This is another huge point with restaurants. Where are the HVAC controls for my room and who's in charge of that? I spoke at an event earlier in the year, got there, the room was too small, it was closed up, it was hot, people were uncomfortable, they were distracted. I never went back to that place again. And so think about little things, HVAC, how is the room, how do you control it? If it gets too hot or too cold, don't spend 10 minutes sending someone to go find them. You want to be able to have those answers spot on done immediately. Menu or buffet, this is another interesting thing. If you have a buffet, people can go through the line, get their food, and sit down. I don't do buffets because I think I'm limiting what I'm trying to guess what my guests want to eat. We do menu, and so does the menu create interruptions? I'm going to talk about the agenda in a minute. It may create interruption because there's wait staff taking orders. They're coming back with food and they're serving people. But I think you'll see when we talk about how our agenda is, I don't find it a significant interruption. I think the benefit of a menu to the attendee is significantly higher than a buffet, but there again, certainly your feeling. The next point is important for me. It says Realtor responsible for their own meal cost. I try and follow this RESPA as tightly and as closely as we can, and I'm of the opinion, it's just my opinion, it's not worth anything other than that, but we don't pay for anything for the Realtor. I don't want to pay for their breakfast and give them an item of value, and then they refer me someone and we have a RESPA violation. So in my world, who knows if it's right or not, I just ask the Realtor, hey, if you're coming to my breakfast, you need to pay for all your cost. And so they each get individual meal tickets. That's an important thing with the restaurant. We pre-work out in advance. That's why I have the same wait staff in advance. They pass out all the checks, and then after our event concludes, they leave the room and they go up to the front of the restaurant and pay their own check. These are a couple other important points, I think. The restaurant that we use, it's sizable, and so I want a greeter up front right at the entrance to the restaurant. Why is this important? If someone's coming, they may know the brand and the location because they've been there, to eat on their own, but maybe they've never been to an event there, so they may have no idea where the room is. I want a team member at the entrance to the restaurant to greet them, welcome to the event, and be able to guide and direct them. Oh, it's just around to the right, go to the back. And when they get to the room, I want another run of my team members to be greeting them at the room entrance. If you don't have a team, maybe you're the one who greets them at the room. I'm just sharing some things that work with us, but having the two greeters is great. The greeter, when they come to the room entrance, is my executive assistant. She has the attendee list, and so we check off everyone is there. So by the time the event ends, we know who's attended, who was a no-show, did someone bring a guest. We have a very accurate record of that. And so that RSVP list to confirm attendance is huge. We have a folder in my office. I've got it on my desk as I'm speaking to you now, and I have every event I've done. I have every email we've sent, and then every guest list that's part of that, just so we can see who's been attending our events. It's been a great way to track it. Well, let's talk about the agenda. This is, I've played with different agendas over the years. I think this works great. I'll walk you through what we do. We broadcast to the realtors via phone calls and emails that the event is from 8:30 to 10. Now, we're going to arrive about 8 a.m., and we're going to, again, make sure the room's set up. We're going to pass out our handouts. We're going to make sure everything we need is there. The room is the right temperature. Is it the right wait staff? We're going to get everything done in advance. Then what we'll find is realtors will start showing up. Many of them will show up early, and some will show up around the start time, and some show up late. So how do we deal with that? We do a couple things. I leave my greeter at the entrance to the restaurant even after we close the door to the private room. So should someone go up late, the greeter can say, no worries, they're just getting started, go back, go through the door, and find a seat. So we're able to help people access our event even when the door is closed that might be turned away. That's huge. When we think about the 8 to 8:30 time, we've greeted everyone. We try and start very, very close to 8:30 a.m. And what I do is from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m., as it says on this PowerPoint slide, I have a realtor networking time. The realtors love this. And so what we broadcast in our phone calls and our emails and everything we do to invite people to this, we say we're going to have a half-hour realtor networking event. We've been very successful at my events selling properties. And so how does the realtor networking time? We tell all the realtors in the emails and phone calls, and when we confirm their RSVPs, we say, please bring 30 flyers on a listing you want to promote to the agents in attendance from a variety of offices all across my city where we work. So the realtor stands up, hi, I'm Bob Smith, I'm with RE/MAX, got a great new listing I just listed today. They have, and every agent there has a flyer. And so they're able to say, I've got a listing, I have a buyer, and I've been blown away how many times we put the sale together or the potential sale together right there in the realtor networking time. It's something that adds value. I'm not selling anything. It allows them to participate, and it provides them a way to promote themselves. Hugely valuable. The sidebar to this is the 8:30 to 9 realtor networking time. For the realtor who shows up at 8:35 or 8:40, they're not interrupting my speech. They're showing up when it's a realtor networking time, which is a much more casual atmosphere of people talking and interacting and tell me about the listing and, oh, I have a question. So the realtor feels more comfortable entering the event, and it doesn't interrupt my presentation. Usually from 9 to 9:10, I do an industry update. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we use Mortgage Coach for that, how we talk about how we're helping people. I think that's huge. I'll go a little deeper on that in just another slide. And then from about 9 to 9, it says 9:10, there's a typo on my PowerPoint. From this 9:10 to 9:50, I'm going to give my presentation. My presentation is going to be very specific, one topic only, and we're going to go really, really deep on that topic. And there again, my topics are all about typically helping them in their business, not me talking about Scott Cummings and Cummings Financial for 45 minutes. No one would ever come back. At the end, we usually have collected their business cards, and we do some little basic, $5 or $10 gift certificate to Starbucks or a book or some handout that we randomly draw someone's name and they get something. 10 o'clock we adjourn, and what we find when we adjourn, like any time when you speak, typically you're going to get people to come up. They're going to want to talk a little more in depth about the presentation. They're going to say, oh my gosh, this was great. I need you to call a buyer. Need help on a listing. Can you do an open house flyer? And so you're going to get a lot of activity. And so myself and my team, I want to be right there to meet with all those people, shake some hands, get names, set up to-dos. And I typically do it with my assistant. She stands right there by me. And so someone says, call Bob and Betty Smith. My assistant's writing down the name and the phone number. And with that immediately goes into a to-do. I want to set up a one-on-one meeting. Can I RSVP for next month? And so there's a lot that goes on even when the meeting adjourns, and then everyone slowly leaves the room, and we kind of get on with the day. Dave asked for some pictures. Here's a picture of our realtor networking time. You can see people are kind of looking through flyers. There's a lady over on the far right of the slide standing up talking. And so this is a great time for these 30 agents to visit, share something, and maybe sell a property. You can see there the little kind of the bottom right corner. There are, looks like 3 little gift bags. That would be our little door prize we hand out randomly for people that are there. We just want to take their business cards and give something out. You can see my iPad in the bottom right corner because I use my iPad in our event, etc. The next slide, let's talk a little bit about my industry update time and how Mortgage Coach can be a great resource. One of the things that come up is we're here to help realtors sell more homes. And so what we want to do is we need a way to showcase that. And we think about how are we showcasing that to our realtors. And the last ones that we've done, I've had that where someone has said, I'm a first-time buyer. You know, another lender said I should go FHA. And I said, well, gosh, how do you know that's your best option? No one knows. The lender just said I should go FHA. And I said, well, great. Well, let's create an actual spreadsheet analysis, and let's look. So we'll do a total cost analysis. I put in FHA. I put in a 5% down, no mortgage insurance conventional loan. Lender paid. I did a 5% down upfront mortgage insurance, or maybe the seller pays as a closing cost allowance. So we can build that out, and we ended up saving a first-time buyer about a week ago. They ended up with $15,000 more equity over 72 months choosing the program we helped them select and what another lender helped them select. I have another young lady, first-time buyer, 5% down. A lender put her in FHA. The dad has been a client of mine for many years. They came in and sat down. I have Mortgage Coach open on my desk. I was able to move the lady out of FHA into a 5% down conventional loan. Her payment was $197 a month, less than what she was offered at another lender. So as I'm sharing these stories of how I'm helping, I want to have Mortgage Coach and Mortgage Coach slides and presentations that I can then illustrate this to the client. I know Jeremy Forcier was on the call a couple of weeks ago, and Jeremy talked about emailing the TCAs to the realtors and the wow effect. That is huge. Well, this is the same thing. We're just able to show 30 realtors at one time a total cost analysis. This is a seller buy down. It could be any example of how we are helping, and this Mortgage Coach provides me the perfect way to visualize or illustrate or quantify, not only for the consumer, but for the realtor, more importantly, to show the realtor and create a distinction with us. Here's how we're helping. We're all about educating and empowering your buyer to make an informed decision. We're not here to sell them anything. So huge. We use them all the time. It's very impactful. This is a slide of me speaking, nothing fancy there. And then this is hugely important. When we think about post-event follow-up, so we have a great event. You have how many ever people come, 20, 30, 40 people show up. Even if it's 10, it doesn't matter. You had an event you put on. You brought a group of people together. Hopefully you wowed them and you gave them some ideas to help them sell more homes, impact their business, and create a distinction about yourself. So what do? Anyone who's new, we're going to take their information. We're going to drop them into our CRM system. That's why we ask for business cards up front. That's why we collect the flyers that they bring to Realtor networking time. We have flyers that we can gather information from. We can take the Realtor flyers and go create open house flyers, financing strategies, TCAs for the Realtor as well, and send that out to them to illustrate how we can help. We also want to schedule follow-up for leads and loans. As I said, at every event I do, we pick up leads and loans at every time we talk because people are there. It creates a great environment like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I have someone this will be perfect for. You just showed the 5% down on my strategy. I've got a young first-time buyer. I think this would be awesome for them. So we're going to follow up on our leads and loans. We're going to send a handwritten thank you note to everyone. This gets back to Dave's point when we started this time together today, the wow experience. I send out something like 70 to 80 handwritten thank you notes a week. That's huge. We're going to call and schedule one-on-one meetings with everyone. That's very, very impactful. It's a chance to sit down, go deeper, high-trust interview, tell me about your business, let me tell you how we work, and then we're going to send some follow-up emails that are topic-related to continue that engagement. So there you go, Dave. That's my presentation. Hopefully this has added value, created some huge distinctions, and empowered everyone to go create their own event.
Wow. I mean, Scott, first of all, thank you so much for the time that you've taken to really unpack exactly what you do and how you do it. It's no doubt you're organized, no doubt you're a tremendous speaker, and I think it's probably obvious to everyone why you're as successful as you are. Again, priceless information. I hope everybody who has an interest in doing live events took copious notes. I mean, he gave you the checklist, the checklist to get people to sign up and show up, the checklist to pick the right venue, the checklist to make sure that the event is executed, and the checklist on how you leverage that event and follow up. So tremendous content. I love the way that you're weaving Mortgage Coach into the conversation. I am going to offer people to raise their hands, so if you do want to raise your hands.
I wanted to finish early so we could take some questions.
Yeah, and we have some questions. So I'm going to start bringing those questions in. James, you had a question. You've been unmuted. Go ahead, my friend.
Hey, Dave, and hey, Scott. Appreciate your doing this today for us. I had a question. You had said that you talk with 3 to 5 agents a day and try to visit with them. And I want to just, how do you have time to take loan apps if you're visiting with 3 to 5 agents a day? I mean, I talk too much. I know that much, but I would never have time to take a loan app if I was doing that. So how do you manage that?
Well, I have a team, including myself, of 6.
Okay, so as far as you have people that will help you take a loan app when you're out visiting.
Yes, sir. My role is big vision, create leadership, create opportunities, new relationships. And so I do talk to leads. I don't take a lot of loan apps and get involved in anything else, but I do talk to leads. I use Mortgage Coach with a client. I do the mortgage planning, and then I hand them off to my team, and my team takes it after the mortgage planning portion to do the application, documentation, submission approval, and closing.
James, does that answer your question?
Okay.
James, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, how would you suggest somebody who doesn't have that kind of a team together to do that, man?
The key that I would say, James, is you've got to start with time blocking. And the time blocking, you've got to really sit down and say, when is going to be my, green time, prospecting time, and you time block that out. And so what we do, what my team looks at my day, and my day would just be like, my week would be like your week. I have times like tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to be out, so my team knows to fill up my spots with realtors, CPAs, financial planners, attorneys. They know to do that. They know there are times when I'm going to meet with clients that I'm going to have them come to my office for the mortgage planning appointment. And so I'm very, very, very time-blocked and structured to the 12th power. I would encourage you to use that to start moving you towards more productivity.
All right, James, thanks for the great question. If you have another one, re-raise your hand. Jim Rice, you have been unmuted. Did you have a question, my friend? Jim. All right, Jim, you have been remuted. Re-raise your hand if you have a question. Mark Brewer, you've been unmuted. Did you have a question?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for a great ideas and seminars. Now, Scott, how do you determine what the realtors want to hear or need to hear that would draw them for the breakfast for your 50-minute seminar, portion of the seminar, I should say?
Sure. As I said earlier, one, I'll start a series, and then what I will also do, and I think like any content or news agency that's out there, media is looking for what is live, what is streaming and relevant today. And so, if they're really busy, I want to think about how can I help, talk about lead management. Databasing is huge for realtors just because no one, probably like a lot of us on this call, maybe maintain a database as well. Prospecting. I did prospecting in January. That's huge because everyone has created a goal and they're saying, I want to ramp up for the year. I'm going to give a talk on prospecting. Referrals. That was my February topic. I gave a talk on referrals. Everyone in any business is frustrated with the amount of referrals they get based on the amount of effort that they are putting into their business. And so part of it I'm picking it, part of it I'm seeing what's relevant and trending. And the key is I want them all to be about helping.
Hey, Scott, real quick question. When you think back over the past year or two and you think of the different topics that you've had, what do you think have been the ones that have been the most well-attended and have created the most positive energy at the event? What are your, if you just had to say, 2 or 3 of the absolute best topics in the headlines?
The best topic is going to be a how-to topic because if you think of life, that's how life works. I want to get richer, get thinner, get better marriage, whatever it may be. Everyone is wanting a how-to. Like our call today is a how-to for realtors. My best events are when it's a how-to. Prospecting, how to explode your results, mastering the art of referrals, building a relationally driven business. Those are how-to seminars. That's going to have a greater attendance and a greater interest than saying, let's sit down and talk about time blocking. Let's sit down and so just think of how-to, because there again, I said, when you start marketing, everyone is asking, what's in it for me? Well, if you can provide them how-to about how to sell more homes, how to be more productive, how to whatever, that's going to create a lot of interest for you.
Okay. And then I had one more question, and Mark, if you have another one, be thinking of it. I haven't remuted you yet. But during that 30 minutes of networking time, how do you get people to break the ice and network in deeper ways? Is there any specific exercises, drills, or things that you do that you think create a more productive 30-minute networking time?
Well, the way that it starts, we start on one end of the room, and if you're the first man or woman in the chair, I point to you and say, okay, Vicki, stand up and introduce yourself. Vicki stands up and introduces herself. Next person in the chair, boom, it just goes to them, and it starts on its own. Most of the people will know each other. I'm there to be the MC and the moderator. And what I mean by that is I want to keep the conversation going. And if people start to get too distracted, like a 5-minute conversation about tell me about specific features of the home, I need to contain the time used in the event. So I'm able to say, gosh, why don't you guys get together after the event and you can talk. And so I'm the one who kind of guides and directs it. But the realtors, for the most part, are all salespeople. They're excited to stand up and promote a property and sell something.
Got it. Okay. Hey, Mark, any other questions before I remute you?
Yeah. What did you initially establish as your budget for creating these seminars, renting the room, or however that works? Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. My budget is zero. I don't spend any money. The realtor pays for the breakfast. I go to the restaurant and I say, I'm going to have 30 people here once a month. Can we use a room based on that? Every restaurant I've ever talked to has said, we'd love to have you. And so the only cost that I have per se is an investment of my time to create the content, and then I'm printing off 30 full-color handouts. Well, we have a full-color, copier printer in the office, so we create the presentation, we hit print, and print them off. So I really don't expend any money putting these on.
Great content, Scott. Thank you so much for your
My
time.
pleasure.
Hey, thank you for being active, and raise your hand, Mark. All right, Tim Jones. Tim Jones, you have been unmuted. Did you have a question or a comment? Tim, join us, my friend. All right, Tim, I raised you. Timothy Chase, did you have a question or a comment? Hey, Timothy, we had too much static. I'm lowering everybody's hands. If anybody wants to re-raise their hand and make sure that you don't have the feedback, I'll bring you back in. As we start to wrap up the call, I want to thank those of you on the call that have gone in and said positive things about the Mortgage Coach app and the Apple Store. I'm grateful. There's 8 of you loyal members that have done that. I want to encourage everybody, as I said at the beginning of the call, make sure you download this app. It really can make a wow experience. Scott, him and I, as we were prepping for the call, we're talking about how he's going to integrate that into his breakfast meetings, possibly be passing the app around as he's telling a story or passing his iPad around as he's telling the story. I want to remind everybody on these calls that we do record them. If you go to mortgagecoach.com, go to the community tab, click on Coaching Call Archives. This call will be posted by the end of the day. All the calls are recorded and available. And I want to encourage everybody to ask questions, participate on Facebook. We are paying attention. We are interacting with you, and we are announcing the new things that we're doing. So, Scott, we've got a few more people that raised their hands. Let's go ahead and knock that out, and we'll wrap this call up in just a few minutes. Jack, you have been unmuted. Question or comment?
Yeah, I'm curious in regards to your team. At what point, or do you delegate relationships off to your team members? Do you have somebody in your team that begins to assume your existing relationships or develop more to generate more lead flow? Or do you manage it yourself?
Sure, that's a great question. The one thing I never delegate is a relationship. I want to delegate a task. I want to have a team that allows me to be more productive to produce a greater result, but I never delegate off a relationship. And so, I manage, maintain a lot of relationships, an insane amount of relationships, and I do that with a CRM system, but I don't delegate relationships. I would encourage you to keep those because the relationship is the key to business and life.
Yeah. Now, how about with the client? So if you don't do the application, your assistant or junior takes the application. Do you maintain all communications between the referral source?
I don't. My team will take the loan application. My team will communicate. But in my to-dos today, I have a host of to-dos, and there's a block of those that pop up, and they're for me to call and introduce myself to the listing agent. I have some that have popped up that are closings. I'll call and thank them. But my team is calling and saying, Scott asked me to call. It'll be in the body of the email. It's in the body of the letters. So everything we're saying has me built into it. And then I've got touch points where I'm calling throughout the transaction, or a handwritten note, or a closing call follow-up.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Jack, I'd like to add something to that. If you haven't been on the past calls, I am in the process of finishing the editing and getting ready to promote the Timber Heat Perfect Loan Process. It's going to be 26 minutes. I really encourage you to listen to that. I've also, in a very intentional way, been interviewing a number of successful loan officers and companies. And so there's going to be a series of, videos that really help you walk through what different people and what different companies consider a perfect loan process. So I think it's going to be useful to help answer the question in a deeper and more detailed way. One thing I'd like to add, because I've interviewed Scott so many times, just to make it a little clearer, when he says he doesn't delegate the relationship, he's also talking, he doesn't delegate providing advice. So he makes sure that when he meets with a client, he's asking those deep questions to really learn what are their goals, what are their needs, what is their pain. He is the one that's doing the Mortgage Coach report, delivering the value, earning the trust, and now he's delegating the task of the transaction. So just to put a little more detail around that, wanted to make sure that was clear to you. Again, Jack, thank you for participating, raising your hand. If you have another question, jump back in. Jim Rice, I'm going to give you another shot. You've been unmuted. Jim, any questions or comments? All right, Jim, I'm going to have to unmute you again. Lowered everybody's hands. Scott, we are a few minutes ahead of schedule, but I always love to jump on an opportunity to wrap up a sales meeting just a little bit early for everybody. I am going to post a question. What did you think about today's call? Please let us know on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being great. What did you think of the value of today's call? Scott, any parting words or last words of wisdom before we wrap up?
The biggest thing that I would say is take action today. The key to all these great ideas, and Dave, you do an awesome job every week. You bring great content, great ideas. We as loan originators have to listen to each person who presents and say, what is the 1 or 2 takeaways? And it may not be implement the whole thing, but what are the couple ideas that I can get, the key points? And I would challenge you to implement those, this week. Take action, take results. I promise you the Realtor seminar will explode your business. And so I hope I added value today and that created a way for you to take your business to the next level. And I appreciate the opportunity to present.
Hey, Scott, thank you so much. You added tremendous value. As always, I learned something new, and I'm grateful on behalf of everybody in the Mortgage Coach community. You knocked it out of the park for us. Again, as you leave the call, please vote. Let us know what you thought of today's call. And, Scott, I look forward to having you back in the community. One last question, Scott. Are you okay if anybody asks for these slides? Do you mind if we make them available to members?
No, that's fine. If you want to make them available to Mortgage Coach members, that's fine.
All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. Every Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock Pacific time, we'll connect. And also want to remind everybody, every Thursday morning, Jacob Gibbs is drilling down on how to use the tools better. So I saw a few questions around iPhone and iPad apps. Jump on Thursday's call with Jacob, and he'll make sure everybody's questions get answered around how to use our technology and tools better. Take care, everybody. Have a great day, great week. Bye.
The organizer has ended the session, and this call will be disconnected. Goodbye.